Ladies and gentlemen, friends and fellow travelers on this journey of life, today I stand before you with a message that I believe holds the key to unlocking a future that exceeds your wildest dreams. The title is simple yet profound: Maximize Your Potential. But what does that truly mean? To maximize your potential is to step into the life you were always meant to live, a life full of purpose, strength, and victory. Each one of us has been given a unique set of abilities, a purpose that we were born to fulfill. But far too often we let fear, doubt, and uncertainty prevent us from stepping into the greatness that is within us. But I want to tell you today, the first step toward maximizing your potential is understanding that you are here for a reason. You have something to contribute to this world. Yes, your talents, your heart, your vision, they matter. But here's the truth that many of us miss. Potential is not just about what we have, it's about what we can become. You may not yet be the person you aspire to be, but don't let that fool you. Inside of you lies the power to rise above your circumstances, to rise above your doubts, and to become the person you were created to be. It all starts with faith in yourself, yes, but also faith in the journey. There will be setbacks. There will be times when you feel like you can't go on, when the road seems too hard, the obstacles too great. But let me tell you something, the greater the challenge, the greater the opportunity to grow. Every trial, every difficulty you face is an opportunity to stretch your limits, to grow in ways you never imagined. In order to maximize your potential, you must first believe in it. Believe that there is something deep within you, a well of untapped strength waiting to be drawn out. This is not a matter of luck or chance. This is a matter of vision, of clarity. When you see your potential clearly, when you know where you're going, you will have the strength to endure the journey. To make no mistake, the road to greatness is not an easy one. It requires discipline, consistency, and hard work. You see, potential does not just manifest overnight. It is developed in the small moments. The daily decisions you make today will determine the life you live tomorrow. The habit of showing up, of working when others won't, of pushing forward even when you feel like quitting. This is the stuff of greatness. However, remember, there's no success without struggle. Do not let fear hold you back. Fear is the enemy of progress. Fear tells you that you're not good enough, that you're too late, that the dream is impossible. But fear is a liar. Don't listen to it. Stand tall, knowing that you have been equipped with everything you need to succeed. And when the times get tough, and they will, be persistent. Stay the course. Never give up on your dreams, but even more than that, recognize the power of relationships. There is strength in community. Surround yourself with people who uplift you, who challenge you to be better, and who walk beside you through both the highs and the lows. Life is not meant to be lived alone. Together we can achieve more than we ever could apart. As you move forward in your pursuit of greatness, remember one crucial truth. It's not just about you. Yes, you have dreams. Yes, you have a potential that is uniquely yours to fulfill. Still. But remember, as you rise, it is your duty to lift others along the way. Use your gifts not just for your own gain, but for the good of those around you. The journey to maximizing your potential is not always easy, and it is worth it. When you stay true to yourself, when you embrace the challenges and the victories alike, and when you keep your eyes on the ultimate goal, you will find that you are capable of more than you ever dreamed. Maximize your potential and watch how it transforms not only your life, but the lives of everyone you encounter. The world is waiting for you, and you have what it takes to answer the call. Stand tall, move forward, and remember your greatest days are yet to come. Understanding your purpose begins not with the noise of the world, the expectations of others, or the comparisons we draw between ourselves and those who walk beside us, but deep within, and that still small voice that whispers in the quiet moments, in the hours of doubt and reflection, in the echoes of our dreams and the stirrings of our soul. For you were not placed here by accident, nor formed without intention, but crafted with care, with vision, with a destiny woven into your very being before you ever took your first. And that purpose, your purpose, is not just a task or a job or a title, but a calling, a sacred mission placed in your heart that you were born to fulfill. You see, too many spend their days wandering without direction, chasing shadows, mimicking others, thinking that purpose must be loud or flashy or grand in the eyes of the world. But purpose is not always found on stages or in fame or in applause. It is often quiet, faithful, consistent, found in the ordinary days and the unseen choices in the way you love, the way you give, the way you stay true to what's right when no one else is watching. Because purpose is not always something you discover all at once, but something you uncover day by day as you walk in faith and obedience to the tug on your heart. There is a deep yearning in every soul to matter, to be significant, to know that this life is more than just waking and working and sleeping and repeating. But the truth is, you were made for more. Not more things, not more status, but more meaning, more impact, more depth. And the first step toward understanding your purpose is not to look outward at what others are doing, but to look inward at what has been placed within you, your passions, your burdens, your gifts, and upward to the one who placed them there. Because inside of you are seeds, gifts, talents, insights that may seem small now or unnoticed, but when nurtured and surrendered, they grow into something powerful, something beautiful, something eternal. And that's the miracle of purpose. It multiplies when it's used not just for personal gain, but for something greater, for the service of others, for the healing of wounds, for the lifting of burdens, for the building of bridges, for the bettering of a world that is desperate for light. And while the world will try to define you by your past, your mistakes, your shortcomings, or even your successes, purpose does not dwell in your history, but in your potential. Not in what you've done, but in what you're still meant to do, for purpose is not limited by age or background or brokenness. But it thrives in the hearts of those willing to surrender, to trust, to believe that even in the mess there is meaning, and even in the struggle there is shaping, and even in the silence there is preparation. Purpose will pull you who you were always meant to be, not perfect, but whole, not faith, but without weakness, but strong in spirit. So don't wait until you have it all figured out. Don't delay until the conditions are right. Because purpose is not something that appears when life is easy. It often shows up in the midst of confusion, in the middle of trials, in the heart of the storm. And it's in those moments when you press forward, when you keep going, when you serve even while hurting, that you begin to realize your life is not random. Your path is not meaningless, and your story, even with its scars, carries power that can ignite change. And understand this, purpose is not a finish line to reach, but a path to walk, a life to live. And it is found not in the constant pursuit of more, but in the faithful stewardship of what you've already been given. Your time, your words, your influence, your kindness. And when you pour yourself out for something beyond yourself, you don't lose yourself. You actually find yourself, because purpose brings clarity, direction, and fulfillment that temporary pleasures never can. The beauty of understanding your purpose is that it brings peace. Not because every question is answered or every step is clear, but because you know why you're here. And when you know your why, you can endure almost any how, and you can walk through pain with perspective, through failure with resilience, through life with a sense of destiny, knowing that even the smallest acts of faithfulness are part of a much bigger picture that's being painted with divine intention. So rise up today, not to chase the world's definition of success, but to seek the true fulfillment that comes from aligning your life with your purpose, to listen to the voice that calls you deeper, to take the gifts you've been given and offer them back to the world. And in doing so, you will discover that your purpose is not some distant dream, but a present reality waiting for you to say yes, to step forward, to trust the journey, and to live with boldness, conviction, and grace every single day. Unlocking your inner strength begins not when the storm is over or when the road becomes easy or when the world applauds you, but right in the middle of the battle, in the middle of the confusion, in the middle of the night when everything in you wants to quit, but something deeper tells you to hold on just a little longer, because that strength, your true strength, is not something you earn or borrow or beg for. It's something that's already been placed inside of you, waiting to rise, waiting to awaken, waiting for you to stop running from the fire and walk straight through it, knowing that on the other side you won't be burned, you'll be refined. And the truth is, strength doesn't always look like power or confidence or loud declarations to the world. Sometimes it's the quiet decision to get up when everything inside of you says stay down, to speak truth when fear says stay silent, to keep moving when your heart feels like it's breaking. Because strength is not the absence of struggle. It is forged in the fire of struggle. It is revealed when pressure pushes against your soul, and it is proven when you do not back down, even if your knees are shaking and your voice is trembling. You see, every time you've walked through pain, every time you faced disappointment, every time you've been knocked down and chose to rise again, you were not just surviving, you were building muscle, you were gaining grit, you were learning to trust yourself in the dark. And whether you knew it or not, that strength inside of you was growing, was deepening, was anchoring itself in the bedrock of your character, so that no matter what life throws your way, You have within you the ability to stand, to fight, to overcome. But the key is this: you must believe it. You must stop looking for strength outside of yourself in people, in titles, in validation, and realize that everything you need to rise, to heal, to grow is already in your hands, already in your heart, already written into your soul. And when you stop saying, I can't, and start saying, I will, when you stop doubting and start declaring, when you stop shrinking and start showing up, you begin to unlock a force within you that no trial can steal and no enemy can crush. Because unlocking your inner strength is not about becoming someone else. It's about returning to who you've always been, beneath the fear, beneath the pressure, beneath the expectations. The resilience that you were born with, that you maybe forgot for a while, that maybe life tried to bury, but it's still there, it's still alive, and all it takes is one decision, one step, one act of faith to set it free. And yes, you will fall sometimes, you will fail sometimes, but strength is not the absence of failure. It's the choice to rise every single time you do. It's the will to learn from the pain instead of being defined by it, to take the broken pieces of your story and build something stronger, wiser, braver, because strength doesn't mean you never hurt. It means you never let the hurt stop you from becoming who you were meant to be. And don't you forget that strength is found not just in the big dramatic moments, but in the everyday choices, in the way you forgive even when it's hard, in the way you show kindness when you've received none, in the way you keep walking when the finish line feels far away. Because every little act of courage, every small step forward, every quiet victory adds up, and over time becomes a roar that says, I am still here. I am still standing. I will not be moved. So if you feel weak right now, if you feel tired or afraid or lost, know this: the feeling is not the truth. The feeling may whisper that you're broken, but the truth is you're being built. The feeling may say you've got nothing left, but the truth is you've got more inside of you than you've even to tap into. And the moment you decide to trust that, to reach deeper, to believe that the fire inside you is stronger than the storm around you, you begin to walk in strength and that no one can take from you. Unlocking your inner strength means you stop waiting for the perfect moment. You stop hoping someone else will save you, and you realize that you have the power to change your life, to shift your mindset, to break the chains that have held you down. And though the journey is not easy, though it will demand more of you than you thought you had to give, the reward is freedom, the reward is confidence, the reward is knowing you are not a victim of life. Your faith in yourself begins when you stop waiting for the world to validate what has already been placed inside of you. When you stop measuring your worth by the opinions of people who never took the time to understand your journey. When you realize that the voice inside you, the one that whispers you were made for more, the one that stirs when you dream, the one that won't let you settle, is not lying, is not fantasy, but the most honest part of who you are, calling you forward into a life of purpose, strength, of courage that only you can live. And that kind of faith doesn't come from comfort. It's born in the fire. In the moments when doubt surrounds you and fear grips your heart, and you choose to believe that your story matters, that your steps are not wasted, and that even if no one else sees it yet, you are becoming something greater than what you've been. Because faith in yourself is not arrogance, it's not pride, it's not pretending you're perfect, it's knowing you're not and still saying, I am worthy, still saying, I am enough, still saying, I will try again. Fallen before, but you rose. You've been hurt before, but you healed. You've been afraid before, but you moved anyway. And every scar you carry, every battle you fought, every tear you've shed is not weakness. It's proof that you are resilient, that you're a warrior in a world that all forgets how much strength it takes just to keep going, just to keep going, just to keep showing up. Just to keep holding on to hope when the night is long. And when everything seems against you, when the voices of doubt are louder than your own, when the world says you can't, you won't, you never will. That is the moment when faith in yourself must rise up, not because the path is clear, not because success is guaranteed, but because deep down, your soul was made to rise, to try, to risk, to build, to speak, to create, to dream, and to dare anyway. Because the alternative, living small, hiding your gifts, waiting for permission, will never satisfy the fire inside you that was meant to burn bright and bold. And yes, you will make mistakes, you will take wrong turns, you will doubt and wrestle and fall. But faith in yourself means you believe that failure is not final, that delay is not denial, that detours are often divine, and even when you don't see the progress. Even when growth feels slow and dreams feel distant, something is shifting, something is strengthening, something is happening beneath the surface. And that is why you must not quit. Not now, not ever, because the version of you that's coming is worth the perseverance of the you that is. You see, nobody else can carry your dream the way you can. Nobody else can walk your path, tell your story, live your truth. And that is why faith in yourself matters, not just for you, but for the people who are waiting on your courage, for the ones who will find hope in your healing, for the ones who will be lifted by your voice, your art, your kindness, your vision, your tenacity, your presence. Because when you rise, you give others permission to rise. When you believe, you become a light for those who are still searching for the. And faith in yourself means learning to trust the process, to trust the timing, to trust the little whispers of intuition that guide you when logic has no answers, to trust that even when it doesn't make sense, even when no one else understands, if it's in your heart, if it won't let you go, if it wakes you in the night and pulls at you in the quiet, then it's real, it's sacred, and it's yours to pursue no matter how impossible it seems, or how long it takes, or how many times you have to start over. Because you will never reach your full potential by playing small, by doubting every step, by shrinking every time someone questions you. And yes, it's hard to stand tall in a world that often rewards conformity and punishes authenticity. But faith in yourself means you rise anyway, speak anyway, believe anyway. And when you start walking in that kind of faith, not the shallow kind that quits when things get hard, but the deep, grounded, unshakable kind that says, I know who I am and I know why I'm here. That's when doors open. That's when mountains move. That's when you become unstoppable. So do not wait for the perfect plan, the perfect timing, the perfect words, because faith is not about perfection. It's about trust. It's about action. It's about movement. And as you move forward, step by step, breath by breath, decision by decision, your confidence will grow. Your strength will deepen. And every time you choose faith over fear, belief over doubt, courage over comfort, you are building the life you were born to live. And when the world tries to tell you you're not ready, you're not worthy, you're not enough, let your faith be louder. Let your heart answer back with every experience you've survived, with every hill you've climbed, with every dream you still hold on to, because you're not here by accident. You are not broken beyond repair. You are not forgotten. You are rising. You are unfolding. You are becoming something powerful and beautiful and true. So walk in it, live in it, believe in it, because when you have faith in yourself, you stop waiting to be chosen and you choose yourself. You stop hoping to be seen and you stand in your light. You stop holding back and you start showing up as the fullest, most fearless version of who you are meant to be. And that, my friend, is when everything begins to change, not just around you, but within you. That is where all transformation truly begins. Overcoming fear is not about pretending you are fearless or denying that the fear exists or acting as if you are untouched by doubt or danger or pain. But it is about facing that fear, acknowledging it, staring it in the face, and deciding that it will not control your life, will not silence your voice, will not steal your destiny. Because fear may come knocking, but you do not have to let it in. Fear may rise like a storm, but you do not have to let it flood your spirit. And even when the fear shakes you and grips your chest and clouds your mind, you can still stand. You can still speak. You can still move. And that right there is where courage begins, not in the absence of fear, but in the decision to rise and speak. Because fear will always try to whisper that you're not ready, not strong enough, not worthy, not qualified. It will tell you to wait, to run, to shrink, to hide. But if you listen too long, you'll forget who you are, forget what you carry, forget the fire that lives in your bones. And the longer you let fear lead, the smaller your world becomes, the dimmer your light grows, the further your purpose drifts. But the moment you choose to face it, to push through it, to walk forward anyway, even trembling, even uncertain, is the moment you take your power back. The moment you step into freedom, the moment you realize fear doesn't stop you. And the thing about fear is it always exaggerates. It always paints the worst case scenario. It always shows you the fall, but never the flight. It always screams failure, but never whispers growth. But what it never tells you is that the fear you feel is often proof that you are close to something important, close to something new, close to something meaningful. And sometimes the presence of fear is just a sign that you're stepping out of the old and into the and that's where transformation happens. That's where boldness is born. That's where the real you begins to rise. You must understand that fear cannot be reasoned with, cannot be negotiated with, because it is not logical. It is not based in truth. It is rooted in lies and wounds and what ifs, and the only way to silence fear is to act in the face of it, to do the thing anyway, to speak up anyway, to take the step anyway. And yes, your knees might shake and your voice might tremble and your heart might race, but those are just signs that you are alive, that you're a human, that you are stepping into something bigger than yourself, and growth never feels safe at first, but that's how you know it's real. So stop waiting to feel brave before you begin. Stop waiting for fear to disappear before you make your move. Because faith isn't the absence of fear. It's the will to move through it. And you don't need to feel strong to be strong. You don't need all the answers to take the first step. You just need the decision to go, the determination to keep going, the refusal to let fear hold the pen and write your story, because this is your life, your calling, your mission, and you are not created to live under the weight of fear, but to rise above it with clarity, with confidence, conviction. And every time you overcome fear, even in the smallest way, you take back ground, you reclaim peace, you build courage, and it becomes a little easier the next time. A little less heavy, a little more natural to move with boldness. And soon the things that once terrified you become the very things you now walk through with strength. The same ground that once shook beneath you now holds your steps firm because you didn't let fear break you. You let it build. And yes, fear will visit you again. It will dress in new disguises. It will show up in success and love and leadership and dreams, but you won't be the same person anymore because now you know how to fight. Now you know how to speak to the storm. Now you know that fear doesn't mean stop. It means press in. It means there's something sacred just on the other side, something too valuable to let fear keep you from. And if you can push past it, what you find is not just what you've been hoping for, it's who you've been becoming. Because overcoming fear is not just about achieving something out there, it's about transforming something in here. It's about reclaiming your identity, your voice, your power. It's about no longer being a prisoner to the shadows, but stepping into the light and standing tall, declaring with every breath that you are not your past, not your doubts, not your worst moments. You are chosen, you are capable, you are called, and you will not let fear steal one more day, one more dream, one more opportunity from the life you are meant to live. So take the leap, speak the truth, knock on the door, write the words, make the call. Show up boldly and live fully, because fear will never leave on its own. It will only back down when you stand up. And when you do, when you live free, when you live life, when you live in the fullness of who you were created to be, fear has no power, doubt has no voice, and your life begins to echo with strength that was there all along, waiting for you to believe. And now is the time, not tomorrow, not next year, not when you feel more ready, because fear is not your master, not your future, not your truth. You are more than what scares you, greater than what threatens you, stronger than what tries to break you. And the moment you decide to overcome fear, you unlock the courage, the clarity, the fire to become unstoppable, unshakable, unafraid. Persistence in the face of adversity is not a talent, not a gift, not a stroke of fortune handed down from the heavens to a select few, but a choice, a defiant, repeated daily choice to keep showing up, to keep fighting for, to keep taking the next step when the path is unclear and the weight feels unbearable and the wounds are still bleeding because something in you refuses to surrender, refuses to lay down, refuses to give in. And it's not because you don't feel the pain, not because you don't hear the damage, not because you don't feel the pull to quit, but because there is something greater inside of you than the force trying to stop you on the outside. And adversity, though cruel and uninvited and relentless, is not your enemy. It is your mirror, your fire, your forge revealing what's been buried under comfort and convenience and ease, pulling out of you the kind of grit that no textbook teaches, the kind of strength no smooth road ever developed, the kind of will that is built only when the wind is against you and your knees are buckling and your hope is hanging by a thread, but still you rise, still you breathe, still you say to yourself, not yet, I'm not finished, I'm not done, I've got more to. Because persistence is not proven when the sun is shining and the road is smooth and everyone claps for your effort. It is proven in the dark, in the valley, in the silence when the applause is gone and the outcome is uncertain and you've got nothing left but the burning belief that somehow, some way you were made to endure, overcome, made to outlast this storm and plant your feet where others would flee and lift your eyes where others would fall and keep going when others turn back. And the thing about adversity is that it doesn't just test your outer strength. It tests your inner belief, your hidden resolve, your secret fears, and it asks you again and again, Do you really want this? Are you really willing to pay the price? Or will you keep going when nothing seems to work? And every time you answer with action, not just words, with steps, not just wishes, with fire, not just feeling, you become someone new, someone tougher, someone wiser, someone unshakable. And yes, you will lose some things along the way. You will lose comfort. You will lose the illusion of control. You will lose people who didn't see your vision or couldn't carry the weight of your calling. But what you gain in persistence is far greater. You gain resilience. You gain clarity. You gain purpose. You gain the kind of confidence that cannot be taught, only earned, and that is the power that adversity cannot take from you because it was born inside the storm, not outside. So if the mountain seems high and the night feels long and the voices around you are screaming, it's not worth it. You should quit. You're not enough. Dig deeper, stand taller, push harder, push harder. Because you are not defined by how many times you've been knocked down. You are defined by how many times you refuse to stay there, how many times you've chosen to rise again, battered but breathing, scarred but standing, tired but still pressing on. And when the breakthrough finally comes, and you won't just celebrate what you achieved, you'll celebrate who you became, because the climb changed you, the waiting shaped you, the struggle matured you, practice became the kind of power you carry now. Not just for this battle, but for every battle to come, because once you learn how to persist through one storm, you never fear the rain the same way again. And though the world may not see all the battles you've fought in secret, though they may not know the tears you've cried or the nights you nearly gave up, though they may only see the victory and not the valley, you will know, you will remember. You will carry the weight of that testimony, and it will give you a voice, a fire, a message that cannot be silenced because it comes from a place of truth, of pain, of overcoming. So never mistake the delay for denial, never mistake the struggle for failure, never mistake the silence for abandonment. Because every step you take in persistence plants a seed. Every day you endure adds a breath. Every moment you fight becomes a part of the foundation that will hold up everything you are building. And it may not come quickly, it may not come easily, but it will come if you don't stop, if you don't break, if you don't give up on the thing that was put in your heart for a reason. And so you persist, not because it's easy, not because it's painless, not because you always feel strong, but because something inside you refuses to let adversity be the end of your story. Something inside you knows you were born for more. Something inside you believes that this pressure, this fire is not the finish line, but the proving ground, and you will walk through it. You will rise from it. And when the dust settles, they'll ask how you did it, and you'll smile and say, I didn't stop. Continuous growth is not a destination you reach, not a box you check, not a trophy you hang on the wall, but a way of life, a mindset you adopt, a commitment you carry through the seasons of your life that says, no matter how far I've come, there is more within me. No matter how much I've learned, there's still more to understand. No matter how much I've accomplished, there are new mountains calling my name, new territories to take, new truths to uncover. Because to grow is to live, and to stop growing is to stop becoming who you were created to be. And the thing about growth is it's not always loud, not always glamorous, not always obvious to others, because it often happens in silence, in private battles, in small decisions that no one sees, in early mornings when no one is watching, and late nights when no one is cheering. In the quiet moments where you choose discipline over distraction, progress over comfort, and truth over convenience, and those moments build something sacred in you, something steady, something strong. And before you know it, you're not who you were and you're not yet who you will, but you are in the beautiful middle of becoming. Because growth doesn't ask for perfection. It doesn't demand speed. It doesn't expect you to have all the answers. It only asks that you keep moving, keep learning, keep shedding the old and stepping into the new, keep reaching, keep refining, keep stretching past the limits that find you. Because every time you push past fear, past insecurity, past resistance, you expand the borders of who you are and enlarge the vision of what's. And you may not feel the change day by day. You may not see the fruit immediately, but growth is happening in the roots, in the soil, in the depths where no eye can see. And as long as you don't give up, don't give in, don't settle, something is maturing inside of you. Wisdom is forming. Patience is strengthening. Resilience is deepening. And all of it is preparing you for what's next, for what's greater, for what requires a version of you that only this journey could produce. So stop measuring your growth by the speed of others. Stop comparing your progress to someone else's path. Stop thinking that slow means stuck or quiet means unproductive, because growth is not always a loud explosion. It's steady unfolding, a sacred rise. An invisible process of becoming more aware, more alive, more aligned with your purpose, your power, your potential. And if you can trust the process, you will emerge in time as something stronger than before. And the beauty of continuous growth is that it never ends, never finishes, never plateaus if you don't let it. Because the deeper you go, the more you find, the more you know, the more you become. And that hunger to evolve, that drive to, that fire to improve is not something to suppress. It's something to honor, to nurture, to follow, because it will take you places comfort never could and shape you into someone comfort never. And yes, it will require letting go of old beliefs, of past versions of yourself, of habits that no longer serve you, of relationships that shrink you instead of stretch you. And that is not always easy, not always smooth, not always painless. But growth often demands sacrifice of the soil where your next level is planted, where your next level is planted, where your next chapter begins, where your next break. So grow in your mind, stretch your thinking, read things that challenge you, ask questions that confront you, pursue knowledge that humbles you, and grow in your heart, expand your capacity to love, to forgive, to empathize, to lead, and grow in your actions. Take new risks, break old patterns. Step into new roles, because growth that is not practiced is just potential, and potential that is never realized becomes regret. And you were not made to live with regret. You were made to rise, to move, to grow. And every time you choose growth, you choose life, you choose purpose, you choose impact, because the world doesn't just need people who are smart or strong or successful. It needs people who are growing, people who are humble enough to admit they're not finished, hungry enough to keep learning, brave enough to evolve. And if that is you, then keep going, keep planting, keep pressing, because your roots are reaching deeper even when the surface seems still. So do not fear the stretching. Do not resent the waiting. Do not despise the small beginnings, because if you stay committed to growth through the storms, through the silence, through the seasons, you will rise into a version of yourself that even you didn't know was possible. And when you look back, you will thank yourself not for being perfect, but for staying in the process, for honoring the journey, for believing that every step, no matter how small, mattered in the becoming. Discipline and consistency are not talents you are born with or gifts given to the fortunate few, but decisions you make daily, choices forged in the quiet habits built when no one is watching and no one is clapping. Because discipline is doing what must be done even when you don't feel like doing it, and consistency is doing it again and again and again until it becomes part of who you are. And together they form the foundation of every lasting success, every breakthrough that lasts, every transformation that doesn't fade when the motivation wears off. And motivation will fade, feelings will change, inspiration will come and go like the wind, but discipline remains when the fire goes dim, and consistency keeps walking when the road feels long. And that's the difference between those who dream and those who build, between those who start and those who finish, between those who wish and those who win. Because emotion cannot be trusted to carry you, but discipline can be trained to lead you, and consistency will walk beside you no matter. Because discipline is not punishment. It is alignment. It is freedom disguised as structure. It is the path that leads you away from regret and into purpose, waking up early when comfort says sleep in. It's choosing to work when excuses feel easier. It's saying no to distractions so you can say yes to destiny. And every time you choose it, every time you practice it, every time you train your will to rise above your wants, you grow stronger, sharper, more rooted in who you are and who you're becoming. And consistency is not about intensity for a moment, but about commitment over time. It's about showing up when you're tired, showing up when it's boring, showing up when no one else claps, because the small actions repeated in faith create the biggest shifts. And the people who master consistency don't always have more talent. They just refuse to stop, and they refuse to let yesterday's failure become today's excuse. They understand that momentum is built not by bursts, but by brick effort, one day at a time. And yes, there will be days when the fire burns low, days when you question if it's working, days when progress feels invisible. But that's where character is carved. That's where greatness is born, because anyone can be disciplined for a week, consistent for a season. But real growth demands that you hold the line when nothing is changing, when results are delayed, when the reward seems far, and if you can stay steady, then you'll rise stronger than you ever imagined. And this is where most fall, not because they lack skill or calling or opportunity, but because they lack the grit to keep going when it got repetitive, vision to keep showing up when it wasn't exciting, the heart to keep honoring the work, even when the spotlight moved. And that's why discipline and consistency are the difference makers, the game changers, the forces that turn potential into power, dreams into reality, vision into manifestation. So let them call you obsessed. Let them say you're too focused. Let them not understand your hunger, because they don't see what you see. They don't feel what you feel. They don't know what's driving you on the inside. And that's okay, because this journey isn't for their applause. It's for your assignment, your legacy, your calling, and every disciplined decision, every consistent choice is a seed that will one day bloom into something undeniable, unshakable, unstoppable. And when you feel tempted to quit, to compromise, to coast, remind yourself that the fruit belongs to the faithful, that rewards don't come to the most excited, but to the most committed, to the ones who keep showing up after the hype, to the hype that are the initial fire phase. After everyone else has stopped clapping, because they're not in it for approval, they're in it for purpose, and purpose will always outlast popularity. So train your mind to obey your mission. Train your body to follow your standards. Train your spirit to endure the process, and understand that discipline is the muscle and consistency is the motion. And together they build the life you were designed to live, the strength you were meant to carry, the impact you were born to make. And though the process may not always feel good, the outcome will always be worth it. And at the end of it all, when you look back and see how far you've come, you won't thank yourself for being motivated. You'll thank yourself for being disciplined. You'll thank yourself for being consistent. You'll thank yourself for waking up on the days you wanted to sleep, for trying again when you failed, for staying the course when it hurt. And you'll stand tall knowing that greatness didn't come from luck. It came from loyalty to the process. Vision and clarity are not just words for the dreamers, but anchors for the doers, lights for the path, fuel for the fire, because vision is the ability to see beyond what is into what could be, to look not at your current condition, but at your destined position, to see with the eyes of faith what the eyes of flesh cannot yet confirm. And clarity is the sharpening of that vision, the cutting away of the noise, the tuning of the frequency, the narrowing of focus until what once was fog becomes a map, and what once felt confusing becomes crystal clear. And you don't get vision by accident. You get it by hunger, by seeking, by daring to ask what others are afraid to ask, by stepping back from the chaos long enough to hear the whisper of purpose, by looking within instead of only looking around, by refusing to live a life of reaction and choosing instead to live a life of intention. Because vision will demand your attention and clarity will require your discipline. And together they will lead you not just to chase success, but to build significance. Because without vision you wander, without clarity you waste time, energy, years chasing shadows and cycles and approval and trends. But with vision your steps are ordered, with clarity your path becomes straight. And though obstacles will rise and storms will rage and detours will tempt, you will not be shaken, you will not be distracted, you will not be deceived by lesser things that scream louder but mean less, because you have seen something greater. And that vision calls to you even when everything around you tells you to quit. And vision doesn't always come in a moment. It sometimes comes in layers, in seasons, in fragments, in glimpses that stir your soul, and burdens that won't leave you alone, in moments of silence where your heart speaks louder than the world. And clarity doesn't always come easy. It comes through prayer, through reflection, through the fire of failure, through the ache of waiting, through the discipline of discernment. And though others may laugh at your process or doubt your direction, you hold to what you've seen, because vision is not up for vote. And in a world addicted to distraction and obsessed with image, clarity becomes a weapon, a shield, a compass, because when you know where you're going, you don't chase what doesn't matter. You don't waste time proving yourself. You don't bend to every voice. You don't follow every trend. Because your yes is sacred and your time is valuable and your energy is too costly to spend on things that don't align with your assignment. And that's the power of knowing, really knowing why you're here. So if your vision is blurry, pause, go deeper, get still, stop asking everyone else for direction, and start listening to the voice that's been whispering within you since the beginning. Stop numbing with noise and start listening with purpose, because clarity comes when you confront the confusion. When you lay down the pressure to perform and pick up the courage to be real, and when you stop trying to be everything and finally choose to become who you were truly meant to be. And once you lock onto that vision, once the fog clears and the fire ignites, there is nothing more dangerous than a person with clarity in their spirit and purpose in their steps, because that person doesn't just walk. They build, they don't just hope. They execute, they don't just dream. They deliver. And every decision is aligned, every move is intentional, every setback becomes strategy, every moment becomes momentum, and that kind of focus is rare but unstoppable. So guard your vision, protect your clarity, cut off what clouds your mind, step away from what distorts your direction. Don't give everyone access to the most sacred parts of your calling, because not everyone will understand what you see and not everyone needs to. And that's okay, because your vision wasn't given to the crowd, it was given to you. And the clearer it becomes, the more disciplined you must be to protect it. And don't be discouraged when the vision takes time, when the steps feel small, when the progress feels invisible, because vision doesn't promise speed, it promises significance, and clarity doesn't remove the work, it removes the confusion. And as long as you keep moving in the direction of what you've seen, even if it's one step at a time, you will reach what was once impossible, because vision births perseverance and clarity fuels consistency. And one day, when you stand in the place you used to only see in your mind, you'll remember that it wasn't luck or noise or hype that brought you there. It was vision and clarity. It was the fire to believe before the evidence, and the discipline to stay focused when the world tried to pull you in 1,000 directions. And that is how lives are changed, how mountains are moved, how legacies are built by people who don't just see the world as it is, but as it could be, and dare to bring that vision to life. Making the most of opportunities begins not with waiting for perfect conditions or asking for guarantees, but with recognizing that life will never hand you certainty, but it will offer you windows, moments to live as a time where something opens, something shifts, something stirs, and you have a choice to step through with faith or to hesitate in fear, because opportunities are rarely wrapped in comfort, rarely announced with trumpets, rarely delivered with clarity, and most often they come disguised as problems, as inconvenience, as interruption. And only those who are alert, those who are ready, those who are willing to risk the familiar will recognize them and rise to meet them. And the truth is, we don't get to decide when the door opens, but we do decide whether or not we walk through it. And so many people miss their moment, not because they lacked ability or passion or even vision, but because they were waiting for certainty, waiting for a perfect time, waiting for a sign that wouldn't require any faith at all. But opportunities don't wait for your convenience. They come in the middle of your schedule, in the tension of your questions, in the stretch of your doubt. And the ones who seize them are not always the most prepared, but the most willing. Because the ones who make the most of opportunity are the ones who show up before they feel ready, who speak up when fear tells them to stay silent, who try even when they're not sure they'll succeed, who say yes to the invitation even when imposter syndrome screams no. Because they understand that opportunity doesn't always look like winning. It often looks like work, like risk, like humility, like stepping out into deep waters with nothing but hope and the whisper of purpose pushing them forward. And making the most of an opportunity doesn't mean everything will go right or that success is guaranteed. It means you showed up with intention, you gave your best with what you had, you leaned in when it would have been easier to sit back, you stayed present when distraction called. You invested your heart even when the return wasn't promised, because the goal is not always the outcome. The goal is to be found faithful, to be found ready, to be found bold in the face of unknown. So many people waste time waiting for the big break while walking past the small ones, waiting for the spotlight while ignoring the seed, waiting for the platform while despising the preparation. But the truth is, the big moments are built on 1,000 small decisions. And the ones who make the most of the big are the ones who have learned to honor the little, who've learned to treat every assignment with excellence, who've learned to say this matters even when no one is watching, because how you handle now determines what comes next. And you never know which moment is the one that shifts everything. You never know which connection, which idea, which small yes will be the key that unlocks the next level. And that's why you don't wait for motivation. You don't wait for validation. You don't wait for applause. You show up full, you treat every opportunity like it might be the one, not from fear, but from honor, not from panic, but from purpose. Because every moment has meaning if you learn to see it. And making the most of opportunity means becoming the kind of person who's not just hoping for chances, but preparing for them, becoming the kind of person who's building character when no one is looking, developing skills when no one is asking, growing strength when no one is applauding, so that when the door opens, you don't shrink back or stumble in. You step forward strong and steady, not because it's easy, but because you've been preparing in the dark for what's about to be revealed in the life. Because opportunity without preparation becomes pressure, but opportunity met with discipline becomes destiny. And the ones who rise are not the lucky, they're the faithful, the focused. The ones who keep showing up when nothing seems to be moving. The ones who keep believing when evidence is absent. And Aki, the ones who don't just wait for life to happen, but dare to live with expectation. And there's a time to plan, and a time to leap, a time to dream, and a time to act. And making the most of opportunity means knowing when to stop rehearsing and start moving, when to stop researching and start risking, when to stop circling the idea and finally jump. Because some doors don't stay open forever, some windows don't wait for your comfort, and some chances are one-time calls that require all of you in that moment and nothing less. And in the end, when you look back at your story, the most powerful chapters will not be the ones where everything went according to plan, but the ones where you stepped through an open door with trembling hands and unwavering faith, where you gave your best in a moment you weren't sure you were ready for, where you leaned into the discomfort of growth and found out that you were more capable than you imagined. And that's what it means to make the most of opportunity, not to always succeed, but to always respond. Gratitude and humility are not just pleasant attitudes or polite phrases we say when things go right, but powerful postures of the heart that change how we see, how we walk, how we lead, because gratitude is the ability to recognize that what you have is not owed but given. Not earned alone, but received through grace, through help, through favor, through unseen hands that shape your path. And humility is the strength to admit that no matter how high you rise, you are not above the ground that holds you. You are not self-made. You are supported, carried, blessed beyond measure. And when you walk in gratitude, you stop waiting for more to be thankful. You stop tying your joy to outcomes. You begin to see the gift in breath, the miracle in morning, the treasure in ordinary days. And when you live in humility, you no longer chase validation or demand recognition because your confidence isn't rooted in comparison, but in calling. And you understand that to be humble is not to think less of yourself, but to think of yourself less, to be rooted in truth without needing to prove it. Gratitude says, I don't deserve this, but I receive it. And humility says, even if I did deserve it, I won't boast in it. And together they keep your spirit aligned, they keep your heart soft, they keep your eyes open to the beauty you'd miss if you were too busy chasing what's next. Because the fastest way to forget your blessings is to start believing you earned them all alone. And the fastest way to lose them is to think you don't need anyone else. And you can be excellent and humble, powerful and grateful, strong and gentle, bold and grounded, because humility is not weakness, it's wisdom, and gratitude is not passivity. It's power, and when you combine them, you carry a presence that can't be faked, a depth that can't be shaken. A peace that doesn't depend on position because you're no longer striving to impress. You're serving from a place of truth, from a place of fullness. In a world addicted to self-promotion, to spotlight chasing, to loud voices and inflated egos, there is something revolutionary about a spirit that's grateful and a heart that bows low. Something rare about a person who says, I have received more than I deserve. And he will not take credit for what was never mine to begin with, because when you walk like that, people may overlook you, but heaven does not, and you will be entrusted with more because you can be trusted with less. Gratitude turns the ordinary into abundance, and humility turns influence into legacy, because it's not about how much you have, but how well you carry it. It's not about what you've accomplished, but how you handle what you've been given. And those who remember where they came from, those who remember who helped them, those who remember the cost and the grace, they carry a depth that fame cannot buy and power cannot pay. And the greatest people are not always the ones with the biggest platforms, but the ones with the deepest gratitude and the quietest strength. The ones who still say thank you when no one's around, the ones who still bow low when the crowd stands tall, the ones who remember to honor the process, the people, the presence that brought them through, because they know they didn't do it alone and they don't want to pretend they did. So walk humbly even when you win, stay grateful even when you rise, speak gently even when you leap. Because titles fade, applause dies, trophies gather dust, but the way you treat people, the way you carry your success, the way you handle what you've been given, that will echo longer than any moment of praise. And that is what defines the weight of your life. Not just what you achieve, but how you honor what's been entrusted to you. And when you feel tempted to boast, to take all the credit, to forget how far you've come, pause, remember, return to the altar of gratitude, return to the ground of humility, because nothing ruins blessing like pride and nothing protects it like honor. And those who keep their head low and their heart high will always find favor that cannot be explained and peace that cannot be stolen. And at the end of it all, you'll look back not with arrogance, but with awe, not with entitlement, but with reverence, not with a puffed chest, but with open hands, saying, not look what I've done, but look what was done through me. And that is the power of gratitude and humility, because when you walk in both, you never forget who you are, you never lose sight of what matters, and you never stop making room for more. Building relationships is not about perfect moments, flawless conversations, or always having the right things to say, but about showing up with authenticity, listening with intent, and offering yourself fully, because relationships are built on trust, and trust is built through consistency, through being present, through being real, through sharing not just the highlights, but the struggles, the highs and the lows, the victories and the defeats, and understanding that true connection is not about what you can get, but what you are willing to give, not about seeking validation, but offering support, not about expecting, but serving. And when you choose to build relationships, you choose to invest in something that requires time, patience, vulnerability, and the willingness to be shaped by the people you encounter along the way. And the truth is, relationships take work, and sometimes work isn't glamorous. The late night conversations, the long hours of silence that speak volumes, the sacrifices that go unnoticed, the acts of kindness that don't require recognition, the times you choose to forgive when it's hard, the moments you show up when you don't feel like it, and even when distance comes or disagreements arise, the choice to stay, to listen, to understand, because you understand that true relationships don't just survive the tough times. They thrive in them, they grow stronger through them, and they become the bedrock of our lives when everything else is shifted. Because in a world that often values convenience over connection, where people are quick to discard rather than invest, building relationships means choosing to see the humanity in others, to embrace their flaws and imperfections, to recognize their potential even when they can't see it themselves. To be the kind of friend who shows up even when it's inconvenient, the kind of partner who stays even when things get hard, the kind of parent who loves even when the world is overwhelming. Because you understand that real relationships are not transactional. They are a mirror of the love, grace, and sacrifice we're willing to give and receive. In every relationship, there's a balance of give and take, but the richest relationships are the ones where the focus is on giving more than receiving, on understanding more than being understood, on helping more than being helped. Because when you pour into others with an open heart, you create an environment where trust grows, where love multiplies, where bonds are strengthened, and where the connection goes beyond the surface, beyond the fleeting interactions, to a place where souls are intertwined in a way that cannot easily be broken. Because in giving, we become what we are meant to be, a reflection of grace, a conduit of kindness, a vessel of healing. And relationships are not always easy. Sometimes they challenge you. Sometimes they stretch you. Sometimes they expose your weaknesses, your fears, and your insecurities, but that's where growth happens. That's where understanding deepens, and that's where true intimacy is born. When you dare to be vulnerable, when you choose to trust, even when it feels risky, when you choose to stay committed, even when it's hard. Because you know that the richness of connection comes not from perfection, from imperfection, from learning together, growing together, and walking the journey side by side, lifting one another up, celebrating each other's victories, and comforting each other in times of loss. And the beauty of building relationships is that they teach you so much about yourself. They teach you patience, empathy, selflessness, and resilience. Because when you open your heart to others, you open yourself up to the kind of growth that only human connection can offer. And you discover strengths you didn't know you had, parts of yourself you didn't know were capable of love, parts of your soul that can only be nurtured through real, raw connection. And when you allow yourself to be shaped by the people around you, you become not just a better friend, partner, or parent, but a more complete person, more fully alive, more fully human. And though there will be times when misunderstandings occur, when you feel misunderstood, when you wonder if it's worth it to keep trying, remember that the depth of a relationship isn't measured by how easily it flows, but by how you weather the storms together. how you face the challenges together, how you choose to stay connected even when life pulls you in different directions, because every moment of challenge is an opportunity to build a stronger foundation, to show more grace, to give more understanding, to deepen the bond, and to trust that relationships aren't about avoiding conflict. They're about navigating it together with love and respect. So when you build relationships, you're not just building connections for today, but for tomorrow, for the future, for the legacy you leave behind, because the impact you have on others is more far-reaching than you can ever imagine. And every relationship you invest in, every soul you touch, every life you love creates a ripple that spreads beyond the boundaries of time and space, impacting people in ways you may never see but will always feel. Because relationships are the threads that weave through the tapestry of life. And when woven with care, they create something beautiful, something lasting, something meaningful. And when you look back at the relationships that have shaped you, the ones that have lifted you, carried you, taught you, you will realize that the greatest gifts in life are not the material things you acquire or the accolades you receive, but the people you meet, the friendships you cultivate, the love you share, and the way you choose to show up for others. Because in the end, it is the depth of our relationships that defines the depth of our lives. And if we make the most of them, we will leave behind a legacy of love, understanding, and connection that far outlasts the days we walk the earth. Taking responsibility is not about waiting for the perfect moment, the right circumstances, or for someone else to step in. It's about recognizing that your life, your choices, and your actions belong to you, and understanding that the power to change, to grow, and to succeed rests squarely in your hands, because responsibility isn't a burden to bear. It's a privilege to embrace, an opportunity to reclaim ownership of your life, to take control of your narrative, and to stop blaming others, circumstances, or even your past for where you are today. Because the truth is that while you cannot control everything that happens to you, you can control how you respond, how you adapt, and how you move forward. And that is the essence of personal responsibility. And the moment you take responsibility, you take back your power. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of life's circumstances and start seeing yourself as the creator of your future. Because when you take responsibility, you stop giving your power away to people, to situations, to the things that have happened to you, and you say, I may not have chosen this, but I choose how I respond to it. And it's that very act of choosing that transforms everything, because responsibility means you stop being at the mercy of life and begin to master it, one decision at a time, one moment at a time, one day at a time. Taking responsibility means looking at yourself in the mirror and acknowledging that the only person you can truly change, the only person you have the power to control, is you. And that means no more excuses, no more justifications, no more shifting blame or playing the victim. Because the moment you realize that your future is shaped by the actions you take today, you stop waiting for things to get better and start making them better. You stop wishing for change and start becoming the change you seek. Because you understand that responsibility is not about perfection, but about effort, consistency, and the courage to face the truth even when it's uncomfortable. And yes, taking responsibility is difficult. It requires you to be honest with yourself, to acknowledge your mistakes, your flaws, your weaknesses, but it also requires you to celebrate your strengths, to embrace your potential, and to move forward with the knowledge that growth is a process, that failure is a stepping stone, and that the journey is just as important as the destination. Because when you take responsibility, you no longer see failure as an end, but as a lesson, a redirection, a chance to learn and grow. Begin to realize that every setback is just preparation for a greater comeback. Taking responsibility also means stepping up when it's easier to step back, taking ownership of your dreams, your goals, your ambitions. Even when no one else believes in them, even when the world tells you to play it safe, even when the odds seem stacked against you. Because you know that nothing worth having comes without hard work, sacrifice, and perseverance. And when you take responsibility for your success, you don't wait for opportunities. You create them. You don't sit on the sidelines. You step into the arena, ready to face whatever comes your way with strength, with courage, with a deep knowing that you are capable, because you are the one who must make it happen. And when you take responsibility, you become the role model for others. But the most powerful thing you can do is not just talk about what others should do, but show them by example. Live by doing, teach by living, because when you take responsibility, you inspire others to do the same. to take ownership of their lives, their actions, their dreams, and their destiny. And together you create a ripple effect of empowerment, of growth, and of transformation. Because each person who takes responsibility becomes a beacon of possibility for others to follow. But taking responsibility doesn't mean doing it all alone. Because even though you must own your life, your choices, and your actions, it also means you understand the value of community, of mentorship, of asking for help when you need it, of leaning on others for support, and seeking wisdom from those who have gone before you, because responsibility is not about isolation. It's about interconnection. It's about knowing that you have the power to change your circumstances, but also recognizing the strength in collaboration, in humility, and learning from others, and in building the kind of relationships that lift you up and push you forward. And in a world that often looks for someone else to blame, where excuses are made and blame is shifted, taking responsibility becomes an act of rebellion, of courage, of boldness, because it's so much easier to pass the buck, to avoid accountability, to turn a blind eye and pretend the problem isn't yours. But when you take responsibility, you stand firm in your own truth. You own up to your choices and you take control of your life, instead steering your own ship toward the future you desire, knowing that it may be a hard journey, but it will be your journey, and that makes all the difference. And as you continue to take responsibility for your life, you begin to understand that no one else can do it for you, that your happiness, your success, your peace, and your fulfillment are all in your hands. And you realize that the most important thing you can ever do is not wait for someone to save you, but to save yourself through your own actions, through your own decisions, through your own willingness to grow. Because when you take responsibility, you discover the strength you didn't know you had. And you begin to create a life that reflects the power you hold. Giving back is not just an act of kindness, it's a way of life, a mindset that transforms not only those around you, but also yourself. Because when you give, you acknowledge that the world does not revolve around your needs alone, and you realize that everything you have, your time, your talent, your resources, are not just for your benefit, but are meant to be shared, to lift others up, to create ripples of change that extend far beyond what you could imagine. Because giving back isn't just about charity, it's about purpose, it's about recognizing the interconnectedness of humanity, and understanding that what you contribute to others doesn't deplete you, it enriches you, and through giving you become part of something larger, a force for good, a vessel for compassion, and a channel of transformation. And the truth is, giving back isn't always easy. It requires sacrifice. That requires stepping outside of your comfort zone. It requires humility. Because often you may feel like you don't have enough to give, or you may wonder if what you offer will really make a difference. But giving back is not measured by the amount you give, but by the heart behind it. And even the smallest act of kindness can create a ripple effect, inspiring others to do the same. And slowly but surely you begin to realize that when you give with a sincere heart, you are not just impacting one person or one situation. You are changing the atmosphere around you, and you are contributing to the world's healing in ways you may never see, but will always. Because giving back also means giving your time, your attention, your love, and your presence, sometimes more than your material wealth. Because people don't just need things. They need to be seen, they need to be heard, they need to be understood. And when you give your time to others, you are offering them something far more precious than any possession. You are offering them your heart, your energy, your support. And this kind of giving creates deeper bonds, stronger communities, and stronger relationships, because at the end of the day, people remember not what you gave them, but how you made them feel. And when you make others feel valued, cherished, and important, you create a legacy of love that will last far beyond your life. And when you give back, it doesn't always need to be in the form of financial gifts or grand gestures, because sometimes the most impactful things we can offer are the simplest: an encouraging word, a listening ear, a helping hand in a time of need, an act of service done quietly without expectation. Because when you give from a place of humility, from a place of understanding, you realize that your value is not in what you have, but in what you can offer. And by giving with an open heart, you invite others to do the same. Building a world that thrives on generosity, compassion, and selflessness. And giving back also means giving to those who may never be able to repay you, to those who may never even know who you are. Because giving is not about seeking a return. It's not about getting something in exchange, but about the joy that comes from selfless act. From knowing that your actions have made a difference in someone's life. And when you give with no strings attached, You tap into a deeper well of peace, a deeper sense of fulfillment, because the true beauty of giving back is in knowing that you've helped another person rise. Even if you never see the outcome, and that is enough, for in giving you are planting seeds that will one day bloom in ways you can't predict, but will always be significant. And sometimes giving back means taking a step back, letting others lead, letting others shine, stepping aside so that someone else has a chance to grow, to thrive, to succeed, because giving doesn't always mean giving something material. It also means giving opportunity, giving encouragement, giving space for others to discover their own potential. And when you lift others up in this way, you're not diminishing yourself. You're amplifying the strength of the community, creating a ripple effect of support and empowerment that lifts everyone in its path. And through your own humility, you create opportunities for others to step into their greatness. The power of giving back is that it does not just change the lives of others, but it changes you too, because when you step outside of yourself and focus on the well-being of those around you, you begin to see the world with new eyes, eyes that recognize the beauty in us, the potential in people, the goodness that exists even in difficult situations. And through this lens of giving, you grow in gratitude, you grow in understanding, you grow in compassion, because when you give back, you realize that the world is not a place of scarcity, but of abundance. And by giving, you are not losing. You are receiving more than you could ever imagine in return. And when you give back, you create a culture of generosity, a community built on shared values of compassion, empathy, and support. And this culture becomes a catalyst for positive change, for progress, for growth, because when people see others giving, they are inspired to give too, and together we create a network of love, a network of strength, and a network of people who are willing to show up for each other, to stand together, to work together, and to heal together. And in this unity, we begin to realize that our collective efforts have the power to transform entire communities, entire nations, and even the world. So when you give back, know that your impact is greater than you will ever fully understand, and know that every act of kindness, every gesture of love, no matter how small, matters. It creates waves that reach far beyond the moment, beyond the immediate, and reverberate into eternity. Because giving back is not just about what you do, it's about who you become in the process. It's about how you cultivate a heart that is open, that is generous, that is compassionate. And in doing so, you leave a legacy that will outlast you, a legacy of kindness, of love, and of service, and that in itself is the most powerful gift you can give. Faith in the journey is not about seeing the entire path before you, knowing exactly where each step will take you, or having all the answers right from the start, but about trusting that every step, even the uncertain ones, even the difficult ones, are leading you somewhere transformative, because the journey is not just about the destination, but about the process, about the growth that happens along the way, about the lessons learned in the moments of struggle, and the strength found in the times of uncertainty. Because when you have faith in the journey, you understand that each twist, each turn, each moment of doubt is part of the bigger picture, part of the story that is unfolding. And all you need to do is keep moving forward, knowing that the next step is always within your reach, even when the road ahead seems unclear. And faith in the journey means you let go of the need to control everything, to plan every detail, to have everything figured out before you take the first step. Because you understand that some of life's most beautiful and meaningful moments come when you step into the unknown. When you trust that even when the way is not clear, even when you don't know what's ahead, the journey itself is guiding you. And it's not about knowing everything, but about trusting that the path will reveal itself as you walk it. Because sometimes it's not about the destination you expect, but about the one you need. And the journey will take you exactly where you are meant to. And even though the road may be difficult, even though there will be moments when you feel lost or overwhelmed, having faith in the journey means you choose to trust that every setback, every challenge, every moment of doubt is not a sign of failure, but an opportunity to grow, to learn, to become stronger, to build resilience, because every obstacle you face, every hurdle you cross, brings you closer to the person you're meant to be, and you come to realize that the journey is not about avoiding hardship, but about embracing it, about learning from, and about rising each time you fall, knowing that you are becoming more than you were before. Having faith in the journey also means learning to trust your own inner guidance, to trust your intuition, to trust the whispers of your heart, because deep within, you know that the journey is yours to walk, and no one else can walk it for you. That the answers you seek are not always outside of you, but within you, and as you move forward, you learn to trust that voice, to believe in your own strength and to follow the path that resonates with who you are, knowing that you are always being guided, even when the world around you may seem uncertain, and that every step you take, even if it feels like a small one, is part of the bigger plan for your life. And faith in the journey is about patience. It's about understanding that not everything will happen all at once, that some dreams take time to unfold, some seasons take time to bloom, and that there is beauty in the waiting, in the growing, in the becoming. Because when you have faith in the journey, you trust that everything will come in its own time. And even when you don't see immediate results, even when progress feels slow, you know that the foundation is being laid for something greater, something more lasting, and that every step you take is moving you closer to your goal, to your purpose, to your truth. And sometimes faith in the journey means letting go of expectations, of rigid plans, of timelines, and simply allowing life to unfold as it will. Because you realize that the universe has its own rhythm, its own timing, and that sometimes things happen when they are meant to, and not according to your own schedule. And in those moments, you learn to surrender, to trust the process, to believe that you are exactly where you need to be, even if it doesn't always look the way you thought it would, because the journey is never linear, and it's never predictable. But that's what makes it beautiful, and it's that very unpredictability that often leads us to places we never imagined we would. Faith in the journey also means celebrating the small wins, the little moments of progress. To us too often, we get caught up in the big picture, in the destination, and we forget to acknowledge the steps we've already taken, the milestones we've already reached, the lessons we've already learned. And when you have faith in the journey, you stop waiting for some distant day to feel proud of yourself. You start celebrating right where you are, appreciating the growth, the courage, the resilience it takes to keep moving forward. And in doing so, you remind yourself that every moment is worth living, and every day is an opportunity to grow and to give thanks for how far you've come. And faith in the journey is also about trusting that the road is not always meant to be easy, but it's meant to be worth it, that every challenge you face, every difficulty, every hardship is an essential part of the journey, a part that shapes you, that refines you, that prepares you for what lies ahead, because the hard times are not wasted. They are the moments that make you stronger, more compassionate, more understanding. And when you look back on your journey, you will realize that every difficult moment was a lesson that you needed to learn. And you will see how it all fits together, how every experience, every twist in the road led you to where you are now. And you will be grateful for the growth that came from it all. And when you trust the journey, you start to see life as a series of unfolding chapters, each one with its own challenges, its own lessons, its own joys. And by embracing the full spectrum of the journey, the highs and the lows, the victories and the struggles, you begin to see that the journey itself is the gift, the opportunity to become the person you were meant to be, to discover new depths of strength, wisdom, and love, and to recognize that you are not just walking a path, but creating it, shaping it, living it. And in doing so, you become more connected to yourself, to the world, and to the beauty that lies in simply trusting the process and knowing that with each step you take, you are exactly where you need to be. Living a life of integrity is about choosing to do what is right, even when no one is watching, choosing to be honest and true to your word, to your values, and to the promises you make, because integrity is not a fleeting quality. It is the foundation of character. And when you live with integrity, you are not swayed by external pressures, by the opinions of others, or by fleeting temptations, but you stand firm in your beliefs, your convictions, and your actions, knowing that the path of integrity is not always the easiest or the most popular, but it is the one that leads to peace, to fulfillment, and to a life that aligns with your deepest self. Because when you live with integrity, you are not just shaping your actions, but also shaping your soul, shaping the person you become and the impact you have on the world. And integrity is not just about being honest when it's easy, when it benefits you, but about being honest when it's difficult, when the truth may be uncomfortable, when the consequences of honesty may seem heavy. Because true integrity is found in those moments when it costs you something to do what is right, when it's tempting to take shortcuts, to deceive, to compromise your values. But even then, you choose to stay true to your principles, to honor your word, and to walk the road less traveled. Knowing that while the path of integrity may be more challenging, it is the one that will bring you peace in the long run. Because when you live with integrity, you never have to look over your shoulder. You never have to second guess your actions, and your conscience is clear. Knowing you have remained faithful to who you are. Living with integrity also means being accountable, not only to yourself, but to others. Because integrity is not just an internal commitment, it's an external demonstration of your character. And when you live with integrity, you take responsibility for your actions, you acknowledge your mistakes, and you strive to make things right. Because integrity requires you to be transparent, to own up to your shortcomings, and to never shift the blame onto others. Because when you live with integrity, you understand that accountability is not a weakness, but a strength. And that true strength is found in the courage to admit when you're wrong and to learn from those moments, to grow from them, and to use them as stepping stones toward becoming a better version of yourself. And living a life of integrity also means standing up for what is right, even when it's unpopular, even when it's easier to remain silent or to go along with the crowd. Because when you live with integrity, you become a voice for truth, for justice, for fairness, and you are willing to speak out, to act and to stand firm in your convictions, knowing that silence in the face of injustice, complicity, and that true integrity requires you to be a beacon of light in the darkness, to use your influence, your platform, and your resources to lift up. And when you choose to live a life of integrity, you are not just shaping your own destiny, you are shaping the world around you, because integrity is contagious. And when you live with integrity, you inspire others to do the same. You become a role model, a source of strength, and a reminder that it is possible to live with honor and truth in a world that often encourages shortcuts, dishonesty, and compromise. And your life becomes a testimony to the power of integrity, to the peace that comes with living truth, and to the impact that one person can have when they choose to live according to their highest principles. Because when you live with integrity, you are living a life that matters, a life that will leave a lasting legacy. Not because of what you accumulate, but because of who you are and the way you live.